Before we get started, I just wanted to warn you, this is going to be a long video. A lot of you guys have asked me to include a little bit more of the experience of installing it and stop cutting it and speeding it up. I can't do that with the whole video, but I did leave in a lot of stuff, some of my pain points and stuff like that. So I split this video up into two parts. This video, part 1, is the hardware install, and part 2 will cover all the wiring. And to make this easier for those of you who are following along at home, in the description below, I set up a clickable table of contents to take you to the exact moment when I start each part. So if it says cutting the exhaust pipe and you click on the time next to that, that'll take you right to the very second that I get started with the exhaust cutting part. If that works out for you guys, comment below. I want to know if I should keep doing that type of effort on these long, hard install videos. Overall, the install was pretty awesome. The experience is awesome. I'll give you guys a review shortly. I'm trying to save all my reviews for the winter when I can't really get out there and do some work. But definitely this has the WorkPlay Drive seal of approval. If you're on the fence for buying it, feel free to comment and ask me any questions. But I think this exhaust is awesome. What's more awesome is the faces and the reactions that I get when people hear it online, but then they sit in the car and go for a ride. This video right here from Honestly OCD pretty much nails it the best. He's heard the car online and he's heard it in person, and this is just pretty hilarious.
It's so loud, there's no way. Oh my god. Tickling my head. I'm glad I get a vlog. Oh my god. My feet are shaking.
That being said, we're going to get right into the install. Again, any questions, any comments, anything that you got regarding the NoWeeds, drop them in the comments below. When I get to them, I will answer them for you. And again, definitely, if you're on the fence with this, I'd say go for it. All right, we're going to start out with a little shakiness, but I just want to give you an idea of where we are and what we're up to. There's the cats. Got a couple sets of jack stands. I got the jack still engaged. I got 2 jack stands back there, just in case. So basically, on the driver's side, according to the instructions, there is a little seam, which you can see right here. It's dead center on the transmission brace. The other side, though, I noticed, I don't have that seam, so we're going to have to figure that part out, I guess, as we go along. First thing I want to do is we got to remove those 2 bolts there when we're done cutting. So I'm going to hit them with some WD-40 and then we'll get started. We're going to have to do this one side at a time. That's going to be really cool when it burns off. Also doing a nice job on my driveway. Okay, get the WD out of here. I also want to line up my pipes just to make sure I'm cutting in the right spot. So it is saying that there's my line and there's my cut. Looks about right. Looks like I am in the middle. I am just over that clamp. Alright, I'm gonna go with that. We are, front of the car is this way. We're going to be cutting on this clean line. I removed the tape just because it was more of an annoyance. I am using this tool here, the OEM tailpipe cutter. I grabbed it on Amazon, and we're going to do a real live product test, because if this doesn't work, I'm going to be pretty upset. Again, we're cutting on this line. So we're going to go ahead and line the tailpipe cutter up. And this works. Of course, it wouldn't be a good install video without some airplanes flying over. Now these blades are not sharp enough to cut your hand, but yeah, let me pull this around so you can see what I'm doing here. What you want to do is you want to have the bottoms, the part that you're not using, sticking downwards and out of the back. You want to open this up all the way. You want to use that groove to line yourself up. It's a little clumsy to work with, but it's promising to be an easier cut than a saw. Alright, there we go. I got it hooked. Get it lined up. Get it clamped down a little bit. Make sure it's in line. There we go. Because you can actually, you fall right into that groove. Okay, so it says to use oil with this. So I'm going to go ahead and get some WD-40 going here. I'm also... Okay. Let's see what this thing can do. It says you only need 1/3 turn to cut through the pipe. May not seem like much, but holy crap. Those are still sharp. I'm gonna try switching my grip. I can get a nice pull on this now. Switching arms here. Hey, there we go. So for future reference, lay on your back and do it this way. Whew, that was a pain in the ass. If you used oil to lubricate, which I highly recommend you do, because you're going to dull the blades out quicker if you don't. If you do use the oil, just make sure you wipe all that off, because you don't want, I mean, it'll burn off, but you really don't want to have smoke coming out as soon as you turn the car on and run it for a few minutes and freak yourself out. Oh, all right, I'm going to take a 2-minute break, and then we're going to move on to popping that guy off. So we've made the cut. I'm going to bring you in for a nice close-up. That cut looks pretty clean. I'm going to file that out when I get a chance. First thing we got to do is go back here to these clamps, and let's remove those bolts and get this pipe out of the way. There we go. I'm stuck with rubber gloves right now, and these pipes are really tight. I got the clamp loose. Maybe should go a little bit looser. So what I'm trying to do is get this pipe out, and it's jammed in there really good. The clamp is completely loose. No more pressure on it. Problem is I need to get it to twist downward so I can pull it out, but I got no leverage. Oh, there we go. Yep, there we go. There we go. All right. Now we're wiggle it out. Come on. Let's get the tools out of the way. Looks like there's a little water in there. It is really in there tight, so just take your time. Woo. All right. Now, my friends, it is time for a lunch break, and then we will continue in a little bit. Okay, here we go. Let me start off down here. In there. All right, come on. The amount of force to get that in there is probably more than I got from underneath here. I wonder if I need some sort of pipe expander. And I need to go in pretty deep. Take a second. Alright,
So the pipe is a little bigger than the factory pipe, so we have to stretch. I don't have anything to stretch the pipe with, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the original pipe. I'm going to put it inside, and I'm going to pry it around to stretch it out a little bit. So it's getting looser and looser, but I'm going to go in about halfway and stretch around the original pipe. There you go. Now we just need to wiggle this in pretty far. Oh, here we go. Halfway point mark is here. I guess along the lines of this. We're gonna line this up real quick. There's a gap in there, so I'm gonna shorten that gap out a little bit. Good. Get that about halfway. Good, I got a visual on halfway point. Now I'm going to start tightening this down. And then the locks, or the teeth, are on the nuts. So we want to have the nuts up at the top, holding this all in place while we bolt this down. And make sure the nuts bite. Still rotate this up. Get it past the cross member so you have a space in between. And now you have a nice clean look there. You do need to make sure that these nuts aren't spinning and that you're actually tightening it, which is hard to do because you can't really see or feel up in there.
Dad, we want to get donuts.
Yeah, we'll go get donuts today. Absolutely. When do you want to go? So the teeth on these don't work very well then. There we go. Get a wrench up in there and hang it onto it. An interesting one, and I'm going to try and stay out of the way, but I'm just going to yell out the measurements because one of my concerns was how much ground clearance am I going to lose. So what I've done is I've taken a 2x4, and I didn't want to measure up from the ground because, as we know, ground could be, you know, off level and so on. So I used a 2x4 and I spanned an area equal on the subframe with 2x4s, and I'm using a level metal. It doesn't flex, and I just basically clamped it to the transmission brace. And I'm going to measure down from the lowest point, which is these brackets here on the NoWeeds side, and then I'm going to measure down from the factory exhaust over there. We're going to see how much room we've actually lost, or how much ground clearance we've lost. We got 1 1/4 here. And 1 7/8 there. So we lose 5/8 of an inch. Alright, that took forever to set up, and I hope that that information is very helpful for you guys. Here's some comedy for you. I get to the opposite side of the car and I find that there is no clear line. There's supposed to be the bend mark that we saw very clearly on the other side. It is not here. So I unbolted that side, and if you line up the 2 trans brace bolts, which I don't think I could do on video here because I don't have a really good view, and like my phone is not cooperating. So what I was thinking of doing is lining up the 2 trans brace bolts, and when you line those 2 trans brace bolts up perfectly with each other, it lines up with the cut on the other side. So I'm just going to do that and mark the pipe here. We have a little bit of play where it slips into over there, so I'm going to try and eyeball this, and we'll see what happens. know what? It really does look like there is something here, but you can barely see it. So I don't know. I'm gonna bring the camera in really close, but now that I've marked it, maybe you can see the distortion in the pipe a little bit. Where I've placed the mark. But I can kind of see it with my eyes, so it's possible. Right here, you'll see that little indentation. Like I said, I lined up the two trans brace bolts perfectly with the, once those two lined up with each other like a set of crosshairs, those lined up with the cut on the opposite side. And now I'm just going to cut on the opposite side of that. And we'll be in great shape, I hope. Once you have it perfect, I just need to make sure I am straight and in line with those trans brace bolts. Make sure I'm on my line that I drew. And I do believe I've got all that lined up. I'll shove this down here while I spray real quick. All right. Now, I got myself in a really good position for the last one. I think it's this way, laying on your back. And you only need 1/3 turn to do a good cut on this one. And I found using a little extra squeezing really goes a long way. What's up, bud? Get a what? Sure. Just come right back down quickly, okay? Because I need you out here. I need your help. We're making a nice good line through this. And I'm actually applying a good amount of squeeze to this. Unlike what I said last time, I think the part of the problem that took me so long was the fact that I was not using a lot of muscle to squeeze that together. My hand is hurting about this point. Let me make sure I'm still on track. I've been changing positions quite a bit. This is, like I said, really good when you don't have a lot of spots to work in. I was cursing it out before, but you can imagine getting a sawzall under here. That is a little difficult. I am so close to through. And by the way, those people that review this as, I mean, this is one of the only ones that doesn't say not for use with stainless steel pipes, but I'm assuming it's probably not for use with stainless steel pipes. But this is the second cut I'm making with this one. I did buy 2 of these, but I've only used 1 so far. Yeah. Hold on, bud. All right, we're gonna take a break. My son needs some help. I needed that break. Here we go. The WD-40 is breaking down the handles. It's gotta be close right now. That was awesome. I'm sorry. Oh, you know what sucks? I have the other side unbolted, so it dropped. Let me get that propped up real quick. Stand by. Little issue. I had that side loose so I can align it, and the exhaust dropped a little bit, so I got that side kind of propped in place. I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. Alright, once you loosen the clamp, you're going to want to bang it out. Don't be underneath it, a whole bunch of rust is going to fall down. Once you've banged it out, the pipe will loosen up a little bit. Clear all right, you want to bend the pipe down or twist the pipe down so it's past the other one. And you're going to wiggle it out. And as you get about halfway, you're going to want to start stretching that inner pipe up, down, left, and right in a circular motion. Wiggle it out a little bit more, stretch that pipe. You can hold on to this pipe. You're going to want to put some good force into it because you want to open up that inside pipe, because the NoWeeds is just a tiny bit bigger, and you're going to want to really get that open. You're going to want to be careful not to obviously get your exhaust broken free, but you really want to give it some force. All right, get it back in there a little bit. Again, about halfway, and give it some good hard bends to get that pipe open. All right, get the old pipe out of the way. We're going to go and file this down real quick. Okie dokie. And we're going to want to clean up all of this oil. Alright, we're going to get to cleaning this pipe off. This is where you're also going to find out if you missed anything. Don't forget to clean your overspray off the heat shield and the heat shield bolts. Anything that you miss is just going to burn off. It's not a big deal, but it may smoke, and that may not be good, especially when you just get done doing some work and you're worried about it. Alright, so we guesstimated our cut by lining it up with the bolts. We're going to see how that fits. Okay, we'll slide this piece on here. Not as much room as before. Just get it past there. Let's hope we wiggled out enough play to jam this thing in. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
I found myself dirty.
Cool. And it looks like we did not do that. Because I could just get the tip of that in, and that's it. Alright, we're going to have to bring back the old pipe and bend the crap out of it before we can put the NoWeeds in. Okay, we're shoving the old pipe back in to stretch it out again. Get about halfway, and we just pull and push. Getting a little more, a little deeper. There we go. Just want to stretch out the opening. So once you get it in, the NoWeeds will do the rest. Like, it'll start expanding the pipe a little better, but it's just getting it past the initial putting it in part. All right, here we go. My arms are getting tired. And this thing is not light. It is freaking heavy. Alright, so 10 minutes later, we're almost here. All I had to do is get some leverage and just sit here and wiggle this into place. And it sucked. And I think I got it in all the way. The only problem is now I got to bend this pipe upwards. Get this kicking. I think I need to get in a little bit more. There we go. And we are aligned with the other pipe. And this one is non-ratcheting, so that does line up with the nail rivet. The nail rivet does not want to come out. It is coming down. Just need to get a little more force in there. See? You just don't want to damage the fuel rails, which is why I'm staying in this area. Yep. Okay, so let me bring you up in there. Okay, it's like a nail. Pulls out, goes all the way up to the center, so I'm thinking I got to insert this inside there. So pull this away. Get this around there somehow. This rivet does not come out of the slot, so gonna open the edges up a teeny bit. Gotta keep it up high because this rivet is right there. There we go. Okay, so what I had to do is after I gotta pull this all the way down so there's some space. You'll notice that I opened up the two edges here, and then you just push it all the way up against the fuel rail brace, and I'm going to pull it out, give you guys another angle to watch. Okay, so inside there's this bracket here, and basically the edges of this fit around those brackets. I'm going to try and do a nice side view if I can. So pull this down so the metal rivet is out of the way. Get this around the plastic housing, or the plastic brace. Push it up. And then slide it in. Okay, you want to put the other rivet in because you want to come over to here. You want to line up this. So you have this other bracket here. It's got that little hole which goes all the way up. Okay, we want to line that hole up with that, so I'm going to flip you guys over. Before we put this end back in, I'm going to use the included rivet here to put this piece in. There we go. And that feels pretty solid. That's not coming down. I did have to mash it with my hand though. Okay, and now I'm assuming just have to realign this and get it back in there. Now, to get that back in, you're going to need some more leverage than you have from down here. There you go. So I'm assuming a screwdriver. Okay. There we go. Alright, now we've got our heat shield completely protecting our fuel rails. That was fun. Just to review, it looks like it's in there. You're probably not going to want to pull on it, but the fuel rail runs this way. So if you bring a pry tool in this way all the way to that tip and start prying it downward, you'll protect the fuel rails, and you'll just be using the brace for leverage. So don't come in at an angle, come in straight this way and pry downward, and it's just basically a metal ribbed stud, so as you pull it out it kind of pulls through the plastic. Same thing to put it back in, get it lined up, and then use a screwdriver to hammer it back in with your palm. No need to use any hammer or any big tools. So I got a visual of the whole system here. One of the things you want to make sure of is right in this area here that it's not touching. Originally when I placed the pipe up, it just barely touched, just enough to make contact with this. Added a teeny bit of vibration in the car, but nothing else. You got to remember the heat shields here, these are for radiant heat. So you don't want anything touching them because that doesn't, they're not meant for the exhaust to be actually touching it. You want a gap in there. You can't see the gap, but it is there and it is small. If you have an issue with gap here, take a look over here, and the trans cross member right there is there's a gap in between that pipe. Let's see, there we go. So you have this gap here. So you can move the entire assembly forward a little bit by cutting, where's the seam? There's the seam. You're going to cut this pipe a teeny bit more if you need to move it forward. But I'm not sure what happened. Basically, the first day I did it, I had contact right here. Then basically after driving it around for say 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, and feeling a little bit of vibration, just for it barely touching this heat shield. Yeah, the heat shield's got a lot of flex to it. It just came into contact with the heat shield. So I contacted the owner of NoWeeds. We talked for a bit, and he basically said that if I need to cut the pipe on the cat side a little bit just to move this forward. And when I went to take it off to cut it, I found that I had the gap that I needed in there. Now I was almost positive I butted this up against it, but it may have been a mistake on my part. I'll have to review the assembly footage. But so basically I moved everything forward. Nothing is touching now. So we're gonna drop the car and we're done. But I got to tell you, I sent some emails out to NoWeeds at about midnight, a little bit after, and I got an instant response. We went back and forth twice that night, and then again the following day. They are very responsive, so I'm sorry, but these things are amazing. I finally got a good tune where I can, it's not as ridiculous for daily driving. And then, of course, when, I really want to be ridiculous, I can open it up. So the install is done. It is flawless. I'm very happy with it. Just to give you an idea, one of my concern points, and I'm going to share that with you, and you can see that it's not a problem. You see where the wiring goes up and over the heat shield. I was concerned about stuff melting or anything like that, but we've had no issues here. The wire loom is intact. It's still mobile underneath there, so it means it's not a molten pile of plastic. So everything stands up to that. I've been opening and closing these and showing them off quite a bit. The motors are rock solid. There's a huge difference in sound, which we're gonna let my son show you guys shortly. So, all right, that's it for under the car stuff. Whew. These things are solid. It's a lot of work to install them, but that sound was worth it.